If you want to make more sales, it's probably not about posting more or upping your social game. There's a pretty good chance that people just don't trust you. And the content that you're putting out there isn't giving them a reason to. I mean, let's be honest, I don't think there's any argument that customer skepticism is at an all time high. So the question becomes, what strategies and tools can we use to establish trust online as quickly as possible? And beyond that, what can we do to help people get to know us and hopefully like us? Because if you've been marketing expert services for more than a minute, I am sure that you've heard of the no like trust factor. Basically, it's that all things being equal, people will buy from the person that they know, like, and trust. So, how do you make sure that that person is you? My friends, that is what we're talking about on today's episode. So, we're going to go deep and talk about what kinds of content help people know you, what kinds of content help people trust you, and I'm going to share my secret shortcut to creating the kinds of content that actually get people to like you. Because when you add that in, it's like you're playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So let's get into it. I'm Laura Zovelson, and this is the Gen Expert Show, where we talk about how to grow a business based on your expertise that not only gets you to your enough number, but gives you the flexibility and the freedom that makes being in business for yourself totally worth it. And one more thing, I'm going to teach you how to make your revenue so stable that you never, ever have to even consider being out there looking for a job again. So, where exactly did this no like trust idea come from? Well, the concept originated from a guy named Bob Berg who wrote a book called Endless Referrals that came out in the early 90s. And yeah, that's basically pre internet browsers. And when the book came out, it was more talking about taking people to lunch and playing golf. But what he was really trying to get across is that people buy stuff from people they have a relationship with. And the components of that kind of a relationship are know, like, and trust. So, how do we make that happen in the digital environment? Well, let's start by talking about the tools we have to work with. We have our content. So, we have long form like blogs or podcasts or videos like this one. There's short form content like the stuff you share on social media. There's social proof like testimonials or case studies, or when you collaborate, like if you're a guest on someone else's podcast. And then you have your website, which is basically a container for a lot of that content. So then the puzzle here is figuring out how we put those various pieces together in a way that increases our know, like, and trust factor so people will want to buy from us. And by the way, in just a few minutes, I'm going to share a list of questions so you can actually audit your own content and see what's missing so you can figure out exactly where you need to adjust. But first, let's walk through how the various pieces of content are going to help us build those relationships online. And I want to start with no. So the know part of know like trust has two layers. First, it's how do you get introduced? And I think a lot of people really focus their content around that discovery piece. That's how do I get found piece. But where they sort of fall short on the know factor is putting out content that helps people discover how you work and how you think and what you offer. This content is a layer deeper than get found content. And it's so important because it's the key way you have of differentiating yourself from other people. And a lot of people aren't really creating this level of content at all, which is unfortunate because people don't buy what they don't understand. So that's one of the things that creating more no content can really help with in your business is helping people understand your offer and exactly is what's going to happen when they work with you. Okay, so moving on to the trust component. So, this is some of the hardest content to create because you don't always have control over the most powerful pieces in this area. But trust content can be case studies, it can be testimonials, it can be tips you give people that give them a quick win. That can go a long way towards helping you build credibility. But I think the very best trust content is when you collaborate with other people. So if you guest on a podcast, you're building trust because the person that's interviewing you is actually referring their audience's trust to you. But you're also helping people get to know you and know your work by sharing your thoughts and ideas. So that kind of opportunity to collaborate can be really powerful because it actually helps you on all three fronts. But now let's move on to this like content. This one is tricky because you either vibe with someone or you don't. But I have a secret trick that I want to share with you that I think is going to stack the deck in your favor. But first, let's pause here and audit your content and see how you're doing on this know, like, trust thing. Because if you're like most of my clients, when they first come to me, almost all of their content is up there in the know area. And it's way more about getting found than it is about helping people get to know them on a deeper level. So here's what I want you to do, and pause or save the video if you need to. I want you to take a minute and I want you to look at the last 10 pieces of content that you broadcasted or that you posted on your main social channel, okay? Just work backwards from today. And of the 10, what we want to look at is how many state clearly what you do, who you help, what problem you solve, and what you offer. Okay, those are the ones that really are going to help people get to know you. So the next question is how many of them offered something that helped a potential client make progress? So did you teach something? Did you share a framework? Did you offer a concrete idea that made someone think, "Ooh, wow, she really knows what she's talking about." Okay, that helps with the trust piece. And then how many of your last 10 posts showed social proof? So the case study, the testimonial, a clip from a podcast you were on, because that is also really going to be powerful trust content. And then finally, how many of your posts were personal? So behind the scenes, something about you, a why, an opinion, a belief, your origin story. Okay, because that's the content that connects with people and helps them decide whether you're the right vibe for them. So let me give you a peek behind the scenes. Here are mine at the time that I was writing this script. Okay, so I just went into Buffer and I just did a quick review of the last 10 either vertical videos or static posts that I did to either Instagram or LinkedIn. I tend to post the same information on both. And so you can see most of these are vertical video, except where it specifically says static post, right? And so let's look at how would I score these, right? So video clip from a podcast where I was a guest. So I think that is know and trust, right? People got to know how I think because it was a deeper conversation, right, than just a quick 90-second thing. And trust me because I got that sort of referred trust from the podcast host. So the video clip where I was just promoting my own podcast episode, this one is about to map my map to me framework. I would say that that is a no. Static post about another podcast where I was a guest. So again, not as much of the trust. I think that that's more of kind of the discovery kind of no. But there was a little trust there, right? Because I was on somebody else's podcast. Static post with a quote from a podcast I was on. I think a little bit, that's a little bit no trust. Um, there's a video that I made, a vertical video where I talked about a case study from one of my clients. So I definitely put that in the trust category. I did a personal post about how I feel awkward about networking and a book that I recommended to sort of help combat that. And so I think that that is like and trust because, again, that's a little bit of that behind the scenes where I share a little bit of my personality outside of just who I am as a business coach or business consultant. Okay. Video clip promoting my podcast episode about Map to Me. So this is a second video clip that I just pulled from the episode. So again, that's another no trust. A couple static posts about my latest podcast episodes. Those are more no in terms of discovery, really, than getting to know me. And then finally, I repurpose my newsletter on LinkedIn, and so that allows me to go deeper into certain ideas and frameworks that I have. And so that one is definitely a no trust. So when you just look down here about the kinds of things that I posted over the last 5, 7 days, what you see is I'm really kind of lacking on that like kind of stuff. I don't tend to do as much maybe behind the scenes sharing as I could. So this lets me know that when I think about my content for the next couple weeks, I'm going to try to use some of those vibe posts that will help me sort of create a stronger connection. So I want you to do this for yourself and I want you to think about whether you're posting a good balance of the different kinds of content and if you're feeling like there's a particular area that you need to do more work in. Let's talk about the kinds of content and posts that you can make that are going to start getting you headed in the right direction. If you feel like you need more no content, and I'm going to guess that's probably around that second level of no that we talked about, the easiest way is to turn your approach into working with people into some kind of a framework, because frameworks, putting a name on your approach and being consistent about the way you talk about it, really helps solidify your credibility as an expert. And again, you don't have to be published in an academic journal to be an expert. You just need to show how you work and have a point of view. So, productizing your approach, whether that's giving your method a name or just walking people through your process, that's one of the things we do in Business Breakthrough, because I feel strongly that it is the fastest way to move from invisible to I'm the person that you want helping you with this. Now, if you feel like you need more trust content, it might be a good thing to spend some time creating some case studies and make sure you're asking your current clients and your past clients even for testimonials. Also, you could share more content that shares tips and tricks, things people can try and see that you know what you're talking about. I think those go a long way as well. And of course, if you really have a hole in that area of your content, I would start looking for some opportunities to collaborate over and above the content that you create just on your own. Now, if you're getting stuck and wondering what you need to write about to put out more of these types of contents, I actually have a bunch of prompts that I give my clients and I put them in a PDF, and it's called the Thought Leadership Content Generator. And it's got 52 questions designed to help you create content that shifts beliefs, but it's specifically designed to increase your know and your trust. And if your personality comes through in either your podcast or your writing or your videos, right, then that's going to help people start this connection process that leads to that like factor. And then, in addition to those 52 prompts that are really about, um, how do you get people to trust you? How do you get people to know what it is you do and you think? It also has one more thing. Because if you remember from my own audit, I tend to not put out as much of that connection content as I probably should be. And so I actually came up with a bunch of additional prompts that really help you put out content that creates more connection. Because as a mentor of mine says, people don't buy expertise, they actually buy experts. You are a huge part of this equation, because it's not just about your credibility, it's about your personality, your vibe. And the way you do that is you let people into your life a little bit. You give them a peek at who you are when you're not consulting or organizing or coaching or designing. So, what these additional prompts do is help you curate content that sort of shares these personal insights that let people feel like they're getting to know you on a deeper level. So, they're prompts like what you believe, what you're learning, what you'd never do again, why you started. Okay. These let you show up as a multi-dimensional human. And I think that's something that's really appealing right now. So, to recap, if you want people to buy from you, your best bet is to create a relationship with them. And the building blocks to make that happen are know, like, and trust. But when we create content, we don't always cover all three of those components, and we generally don't do it equally. So, one thing we can do is audit our content. And by the way, if you really want to dig in, I'd say look at your last 30 posts, not just your last 10, to get a really clear picture of sort of the get a really clear picture of what you're putting out there, right? And if you do that, you'll know where you are now and what you need to do to fill the holes. And if you want some ideas for what to write about that meet each of the know, like, trust objectives, be sure to grab a copy of my Thought Leadership Content Generator. There's a link to it in the description. And don't forget to add those vibe posts, because they're really going to help people feel like they're more connected to you. And that really is going to maybe be the catalyst that gets them from being on the fence to actually purchasing. So once you do your audit, I would love it if you'd leave me a comment about what you learned. I really do read them all and I will respond to you. Okay. And if you learned something today, if what I shared was helpful to you, I would love it if you'd like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And look at that. I am wrapping up just in time for lunch. So you have a good one, and I will see you next time.